Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is our 8th live stream here on YouTube, and we are very excited about every single one. Before I introduce our next guest, a little information around Holy Tisch. We are an event and content platform centered around the future of food. Our next big event is going to be in September from the 16th to the 18th. It's going to be fully digital, virtual. Now, today, this live stream is going to be like an interactive model. So you are very welcome to post questions or comments into the chat, and then we will ask our guest. My name is Joella, and this is my colleague Charlotte.
Hello, good afternoon. Today's topic is the role of agroecology for food sovereignty, and we have a very special guest all the way from Italy, Paola Migliorini, and she is the president of Agroecology Europe, the vice president of IFOAM Mediterraneo, and an assistant professor in agronomics, agronomy and crop production at the University of Gastronomic Science, where Joella and I met Paola. And Paola, we are very happy to have you here today and to have the chance to discuss the topic of agroecology for food sovereignty. So maybe before we start the discussion, you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Well, thank you, Charlotte, and thank you, Joella. I think you have already introduced me. I don't want to bother people with my... anyhow, I'm happy to be here and to have a talk together, as much as possible interactive, so we can share our vision about the actual role of agroecology that is even more important due to the recent actual COVID emergency.
Maybe we can start right there, maybe because I think not everybody will know the concept about agroecology. So maybe you can briefly explain this concept and maybe also what it means for you and why you are so bound to it, linked to it.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Yes. First of all, let's say the word agroecology per se is not so new. It's already more than 100 years. Let's say the first book is in 1965. So it's a word that is going to become popular today. Maybe I refer as two international reference at the moment. One is the last HLPA publication about the principle of agroecology. So it is defined by 13 principles that I'm going to very fast announce. So the first is recycling, then recycling of nutrients and all kinds of let's say waste and flow. The second is input reduction, in particular external input. Third, soil health. So it's very, very important, the health of soil connected with all natural and ecology. Animal health, then of course biodiversity, and in particular agrobiodiversity and local knowledge. Synergies, so to foster synergies at all levels between field, farm, and also landscape. Economic diversification, so it's based on economy of relationship and circular economy. Co-creation of knowledge and local knowledge and traditional knowledge. Then we go to the social values and also important of diets. So the whole food system is included, not only the farm to fork approach, but that goes beyond, much beyond the farm gate. The principle of fairness and connectivity, and finally the land and natural resource governance and also participation. So it's, let's say the concept went far away from the last century's idea of just a scientific discipline. Now also in Italy, there were very important contribution that goes beyond more than 200 years ago. On the other hand, at the beginning was more, let's say, agroecology between relationship between plant and climate, plant and soil. Then it developed the agroecosystem approach but now, since already 20 years, is more ecology of the whole food system. Then, of course, there is also the movement, has been seen as a movement, not only as a scientific discipline. And the movement is deeply rooted in many countries, of course, in particular in South America, where the movement starts, I would say, but also in Europe and in many other countries of the world, there is a very strong movement behind. And finally, the third, what we call the tripartite, no? So that it can be seen as a three different point of view, is the approach and the practice. So it's also a list of practice, but it's very important, the approach. So some years ago, there was a book published by Mendez and Bacon. So agroecology is a transdisciplinary, participatory, and action-oriented approach. So it's a system thinking and not just a discipline. This is as an introduction. And let's say in the website of Agroecology Europe, you also find what we wrote, our understanding of agroecology, that more or less is what I summarize, but we specifically refers also to food sovereignty, because we considered important as a way to let's say to give the right of people, no, to everybody, the healthy and cultural food production. So it has a ecological domain, of course, but also a very important socioeconomic approach. So sustainability is not it's a broad definition, and include, of course, the next generation and the interest of everybody, and go out of the classical market and corporation, or anyhow the more recent, very recent approach in economy, recent in terms of human development and nature development. So food sovereignty prioritize local and national economy and empower the peasant, the family, and all kind of food producer into from the production till the distribution, and again the social participation. This is in brief.
But most of the time we feel like that food sovereignty is also being mixed up with food security. But as you described right now, this is these are two different concepts, right?
Yeah, no, completely different. Yeah, food security is of course very, very important. That sometimes is even mixed up with sometimes with food safety. That is a completely another issue. But anyhow, no, food security have four dimensions. Anyhow, is the let's say the right to have a healthy dietary intake. That means also a very complex issue, but the sovereignty go beyond, let's say, is the right to decide and to provide connection. So is about food and agriculture. So is the right to define our own food and agricultural system. So it's not to give the power to somebody else, let's say the government, corporation, the invisible market, but it's more our choice. Of course, every right imply also a certain role of participation and of responsibility. So there is a double side, of course. No? So the more you want to decide, the more you need to be involved, and also to become an active participator of the food system, agro-food system. So this is how it has been seen. And why the COVID? Because COVID was very clearly a pandemic related to the collapse of our system. So it highlights the ecological breakdown of our society. And it's clear, I see as a radical criticism of our agro-food system of today. So even more, I was very convinced much before, but even more is a way for me to foster agroecology at all level, from climate change. So we are in a very big crisis in general, because there are many needs that we need to tackle, let's say, from nitrates in the underground water to pesticides residues in fruit and vegetable that are still high, and total use of pesticide sales. I'm talking about Europe, I'm not talking about, let's say, Argentina, where there is, of course, a very strong emergency, for example, linked to glyphosate, but also in Europe we have this important problem, because biodiversity, for example, there is farmland bird index dramatically dropped down, as well as number of pollinators and bee and bumbles and arthropod decline. So the insect biodiversity index is dramatically dropped also in Europe, as well as soil fertility, biodiversity, and in general the level of global food system is too much linear and not enough circular and participatory. That's why agroecology could provide some answer. Maybe it's not the only, I don't want to say that it's the only approach, but is the one that is more probably radical at the moment and complete.
Yeah. And how does like Agroecology Europe, like, do they do projects? Like, what kind of projects do you do, or activities? Or is it more like a platform to exchange and meet other people with the same ideas to work together?
Let's say the association have different, let's say, activity. I must say that in the last 3 years, that it's quite recent compared to other associations that have a strong tradition already, I must say, both in agroecology and food sovereignty. But I think we were good in working hard. So we have developed, of course, our principle of agroecology and vision and position, also in terms to clarify what is agroecology and what maybe is not. For example, there are a list of, you can find it in the website, there are some clarification about biotechnology or use of agrochemicals, or dimension in terms of small and peasant farming versus large scale, or technological innovation, and also gender perspective and social justice. So those elements that sometimes are not so clear, not so defined, we are trying to give, of course, our opinion. And on the other hand, yes, we are developing, for example, the forum every 2 years. So we are going to open now soon the third forum call for contribution, that will be in Barcelona in June 2021. For example, the forum for us, we started in Lyon in 2017. Last year we were in September, October in Crete, in a very beautiful area, rural area of marginal South Europe. So it's very important, the connection, and yes, as you said, the networking. So it's first of all a big family, as for me is also the organic movement. I also want to stress this, that I'm active in IFOAM since already many years. So for me it's a group of friends, let's say it's a worldwide people that are trying to, in our little everyday life, trying to foster more sustainability in agri-food system. And of course we are trying to influence policy. So we developed a position paper about CAP, a European policy. And yes, we are starting to have projects at different level, let's say mainly European projects. So we have a LIFE project, mainly for biodiversity and soil and different environmental issue. We have at the moment 2 research projects in Horizon 2020, and some are coming.
But it seems like all this topic is like a huge, agroecology is like a huge topic with including so many different different points, would you say like it's a big movement already? Because you said in the beginning like it's exists for a long time. Would you say like a lot of people are engaging in this, or?
Yeah, of course. I want to cite, of course, Via Campesina, for example, in Europe, that since many years have worked a lot in this issue. Then, on the other hand, now, for example, FAO, starting from different forum and workshop in different regions of the world, have developed a lot. It was strategic. So when there was the forum in Rome in 2018 inside FAO, and Graziano da Silva gave the conclusion, for me it was a very happy day, I must say. Let's say it was a kind of recognition, worldwide recognition of the potential of agroecological approach for the worldwide agro-food system, not only for a region or for a country. There were more than 700 representative countries. And then recently also European Union with, first of all, with the Farm to Fork strategic plan, and as well as the biodiversity strategic plan, they mention agroecology as a roadmap, as a practical approach. Then, of course, we have to see how it will be implemented, because one is the good word, and then there is the specific economic measure for farmer and for food producer. So we will see how, and of course, for example, Agroecology Europe, together with many other associations, play a role on it in order to influence a little bit the decision.
Of course,
So how do you, like, to become the food system, that it becomes a stronger, social, balanced, fair and ethical system? So then it would be like to go more into the principles of agroecology and get it wider spread, and also like to get similar initiatives and actions also more to the farmers, or like where are the challenges that, like, where are the limits, more or less, like how, what is the challenge to scale it up, if even though
there are a lot of barriers still. There are many. For example, alternative use of pesticides, just as an example. So I want to cite one for all, but many. Glyphosate have a lot of impact. So we find glyphosate in our drinking water, in our soil, in our environment. But at the moment, European Union do not have let's say, decision to just not stop to produce it or stop to not to sell it, because they say that we don't have real alternative. And actually, to have a direct alternative to that, we need to system redesign our farm and food system. That imply a lot of new knowledge and innovation and let's say diversity at all levels, from soil till market channel. So diversity is the key. So it's possible, it's very possible, and organic farming already proved this since 30 years. But we want to catch the larger farms, so not just to go out from the niche. Okay, so not to go to niche production, but to influence a larger farmer, because practically speaking, a large farm have more possibility to develop agroecology than a small farm. It seems a paradox, but it's not like this. Let's say, of course, a family farm is already generally much more diverse than a large farm that sometimes is come down to monoculture, use of external input, massive use of machine, and so far and so forth. But on the other hand, if you have a large, unique agroecological area, you have more resource. So it's more easy to develop ecological infrastructure, that you have access to water inside the farm. So all this kind of also landscape diversity, that means beneficial insect, that means healthy soil. So so we want to influence all kinds of farming in that direction. Then, of course, there is the, let's say, there is also a way to see it that to change a little bit in order not to change anything. I'm speaking about a little bit greenwashing. There is this risk. Of course, it's not my personal and not our goal. I think with system redesign and with diversification, it's possible to produce healthy food with a good environmental resource externalities. Anyhow, sorry, your question was about the limits. The limits are at the moment still in politics, technical means, knowledge, and knowledge is very important. So knowledge at all levels. For example, also at higher educational level, is an example, but at University of Gastronomic Science, we are offering a master in agroecology and food sovereignty. And there are not many in Europe. There are very few, for example. And we, of course, we are collaborating with all of them. There are, in the webpage of Agroecology Europe, there is a list of courses offered, so where people can access information and can access knowledge. But more important is, and Charlotte knows this very well, is the competence development. So there is more, as my friends Guy Leblanc always says, and let's say teach me already more than 10 years ago, there is more distance between learning and action than from not knowing and learning. Okay, so it's not just that you know something that make you change. There is something else in between. So we need to work in that distance and to give people the right space and the right energy, anyhow, the possibility to become actor of changes.
That's true. Yeah.
And I do remember one quote you usually use is, if you really want to learn something, try to change it, by Kurt Lewis. And that's something I think maybe is also like a good reminder that it's like if we want to change the system, we should become active. Otherwise we don't understand it really. Like then you see the real limits, because it's a difference between thinking and action.
Yeah. Then, of course, another, for example, big critical classical limit is that agroecology and organic farming are not economically viable. And this is completely not true. We have published a paper, the first author is Jan Douw van de Plug, where we compare agroecological, conventional and industrialized agriculture, and it's clear that it depends a lot how you value the family work, or anyhow the unit of working hour. No? So it's much more generally agroecological farms have more people that work in the farming and in the land, and this is an added value. It's not so. Farmers are the ones that are protecting and enhancing our biodiversity, our agrobiodiversity. That means local production, that means gene in terms of information, no? So local productivity, that are the one much more adapted and so resilient, for example, to climate change. So if we squeeze the cost of production, no? With big machine, monoculture, irrigation, external input, the costs are less, but also the added value are much less. So we still need to prove this more, or anyhow to have better evidence, but the focus definitely is on labor. And this is why in Agroecology Europe proposal, according to us, the CAP must be reformed, not based on hectare, on land. So the more you have, the property more you have, the more you get. But on the other way around, based on labor. So the more people you have in the land, that means repopulation of rural area, of marginal area, you get more. So this is a good way to revitalize the rural area.
Would you say that one country in Europe is championing this issues the best, or is it hard to say?
We have done some research and published a paper in that highlight agroecology at different country level in Europe. Let's say, I would not say that there is one above the other, but there is in each country peculiarities. So maybe in some country the research is more advanced than movements. In some other country there is more movements and maybe less activity at university level, and in some other countries maybe the local practice are already very much agroecological. So there are different combination of agroecology, and we inside Agroecology Europe we are publishing our we call it initiative. So there is the youth network of agroecologists. That is an amazing group of youth that last year we gave them the task to make a survey and to collect initiative in different European countries. So it's amazing how already developed is agroecology in Europe. So we have a lot of very nice experience, very diverse, of different kind, from local markets, local farmers, collection of local breeds, local varieties. So it's very interesting. So it is alive.
Super. We have one question from the audience. Maybe it fits. The question is, what is the agroecologist's goal for yield per hectare? Can it be as productive as conventional farming? What would you say?
My answer from a scientific point of view is, of course, it depends. It depends on some factors. Let's say, again, is not the yield. First of all, I don't think the yield is the only, the unique parameter or indicator of productivity. But of course, is a very important one, because very often farmers get a living on that. But it's not the only one, first of all. So for me, it's wrong to base all our attention to yield, productivity, and level. On the other hand, there are already a lot of data, for example, comparing organic and conventional, just as an example. And I was also a researcher in that sector for many years in the University of Florence, where we had the longest long-term experiment in Italy, comparing organic, integrated, and conventional farming. So for 20 years, we compare similar farming system, not plots, but comparing the same agro-ecosystem. In 1992, that was started by Professor Concetta Vazzana. And there we clearly, we have published this data in European Journal of Agronomy. We clearly show that there is no difference statistically in yield, but in comparison, the organic agroecosystem have higher carbon content and nitrogen content, less risk of leaching. That means you produce the same and you get much more carbon in the soil. That means it's more resilient for climate change. So it's the one more able to stock carbon in the soil. So that means less gas, carbon into the air. And there are many other examples in the paper I just mentioned that is specifically referred to agroecology, published by Jan van de Ploeg and a lot of other researchers, also including me. We provide data from different countries where we see that is not the yield the right economic indicators.
Yeah. And why, is that, why still a lot of farms don't want to change? Like, why they stick to the indicator of economic or of yield instead of seeing the whole ecosystem?
Because first of all, unfortunately, the farmer do not decide almost anything. Let's say very often conventional farmer are in the hand of, let's say, the innovation in the farm have been bring by the company, by seed company, by pesticide company. They bring the innovation, so they sell new product all the time, and they say, okay, these new breeds is produce more than the breeds I sell you last year, or this product is against dicots, but also against monocots, so it kills weeds better than the. So this is unfortunately the situation in our countryside. So the farmer are more or less alone to fight against a big market that squeeze the price of the product. So if a farmer have to sell, I don't know, any kind of product, from tomato to wheat to whatever, milk, the price is decided by the invisible market, not by themselves. It's not based on the cost of production. That's why for the farmer it's very important the yield. So the more you produce, the more little you get. Okay. We should reverse this situation and give more power in the hand of the farmer, so that the farmer can decide more about their, for example, the decision about practice, how to produce, but also where to sell and how to sell. And this is at the moment is very limited, very limited. So all kinds of action that make the farmer more aware about their power and about their role is very welcome. Is very important.
Yeah. But is it also like in the sense for agroecology to connect the consumer with the producer closer, and to have like to maybe cut out a little bit the market structure and have the direct selling and using like going into that project and concept?
Yeah, definitely. So all kinds of, let's say we don't, I personally don't even like to call consumer and producer. And this is, again, it's another, I would like to mention, of course, for example, in the slow food movement, the consumer are more referred to co-producer. So the people that help the farmer to produce, no? Co-producer in terms of, we were talking before about our responsibility in choice and decision. So again, I don't blame people that go into the, for example, in the supermarket, that are very useful for some reason. On the other hand, again, it's not the big retailer that can support family farming. It's difficult, much more difficult for many reasons, because it's difficult to have the standardization of the product, to have the product right in time, to have products that are beautiful, not for all kinds of consumers. So there are many issues. So yes, of course, any kind of so the approach when one of the principles in agroecology is connectivity, that I said before. So to create that vital network between people that produce and people that eat the product that are produced by others. So any kind of activity, and again, there is a lot of possibility. I don't want to. There is not only one, not at all. So there is many different ways to create this connection and to develop relationship among people.
I think there's a next question from the audience which fits very well here. It's from Paul Klebinder, and he's asking, what are the measures which needs to be taken to bring people back to working with their hands in the farms, and especially for rural areas? I think that's very interesting.
It's of course something that I myself questioning a lot when I see, for example, that it's reality is that, in particular, for example, I'm talking about Italy that I know very well, but in many other countries, agricultural workers are mainly immigrants, or anyhow are mainly people that are even more exploited. And on the other hand, it's true that they are not, this is my opinion, but they are not stolen this job to anybody, because Italian people do not want to do that work at all. And a regular worker, let's say officially register, it's paid, in Italy it's paid €7 per hour. The cost is even double for the farmer, it's around 15 due to labor cost and so on. But to work under the sun, maybe with your back and your knee near the soil for 7 hours is difficult. It's hard. On the other hand, farmers do this, and so it's also a recognition of the value of this work. So let's say, again, I don't have a single answer. It's only through the recognition of this work we can go back to the countryside. I'm not even again, for example, there is a lot also of innovation and little machine or small technology that are very useful to decrease the fatigue, to decrease the physical work, hard work. Again, is technology allowed or anyhow welcome in agroecology? Yes, if the let's say the knowledge to develop that technology again is shared, or anyhow do not belong to one unique group. I don't find. I think it's very useful to decrease the fatigue of the work. Then, so computers are welcome to detect the next, I don't know, weather forecast or correct use of some means or whatever. So let's say, again, we have to clearly understand the principle behind.
Yeah. And also some work is not, it's not able to be it's from some machine or something, because this year in Corona times, in COVID-19 times, I went on a hops field and worked there for 10 days. And I think it's not possible to use a machine there, because you have to select all these plants 3 times to put it on a wire. And I think we were 8 hours on the field every day. It was really exhausting. It was a very, very nice experience, but it's really, really hard work. So I think it's very difficult to make this appealing to young people if you are not well paid then, or if you, I don't know, if you are in an area where nothing else is, just one farm. Because the farmer also told us it's very hard for him, because young people, the family, they have mostly traditional run farms, and other families have the problems that the children don't want to do this job anymore and they want to move to the cities. And he said one suggestion from him was, I don't know if I agree or disagree, he said it would be better if maybe bigger companies or other companies would come to rural areas to be based there, so that there may be people who do not want to work at the farm but still want to live on the countryside and maybe have a connection to nature again, can still live in rural areas. I don't know if that makes sense. But
I don't know either. Of course, connection to nature is very important since the kindergarten. So it's good that kids stay in the forest more than indoor. On the other hand, I don't think that is the solution. But let's say what we can do is to make the farmer work again something that is socially recognized and economically recognized, of course. Otherwise, much better to be a doctor or a lawyer or or a researcher. Let's say, on the other hand, there are many. I knew from my background in organic farming, a lot of organic farmers were people that maybe before had a work, for sure the initial, the innovator, the 70s or 80s, there were people that were already shocked and fed up of working in the town and smog area and they wanted to go back to nature. Let's say there are possibilities. One of the first for sure is to make the economic income higher for farmer. This is a very direct way to do it. So must be, again, good information, good knowledge, good networking. This is also a very good way to do it. And in order to find the right market, that doesn't mean too much costly. But costly for the consumer, for the people that eat, but fair for all. Fair for all means both consumer and producer.
Maybe there's also the principle or the system from the shop in Bra. Very nice thought that you have a card where you can pay money in the beginning of the month, so that this money can go to the farmer directly, so they have already money to work with and don't have to wait till they've been paid.
Yeah, this concept is generally called community supported agriculture, that, let's say, is very developed in US. On the other hand, for many social reasons in Europe is not really so developing. Let's say it's hard to find people that are willing to pay in advance and share the risk with the farmer of unfair, let's say, not good weather, lack of rain, or pest and disease emergency that will not allow you to harvest. It's very difficult to develop this concept, at least in Europe. For example, in Italy are very well known the gruppi di acquisto solidale, group of consumer, but also inside that movement, the best success is at least to have the acceptances of to receive the box without knowing what it is inside. This is the maximum level of flexibility that, generally speaking, an Italian consumer can sustain. But even in that network, very often they order 1 kilo of carrots, 1 kilo of tomato, that is not in the spirit of we share with the farmer the production and the risk. So again, this is something we need to work on education level, because as a gastronome, you need also to know how to cook that product.
Yeah.
Whatever you receive, the leaf of the red barbabietola, of the beetroot. Many people throw it away. They don't know how to cook it, and this is just an example. So there are many levels that we need to tackle in order to help our environment, I must say, at the end.
So one big key is like education, like also starting with educating the really little kids, and then maybe also inspiring the parents.
Of course, yeah. Kids are very good driver. The big company knows very well, but since the kids are inside the mother, they start to develop the taste. We know this, for example, from our professor Gabriella Morini. So if the mother are used to eat a very diversified diet, means that the new person will have a more possibility to accept bitterness or strange taste. It's just by education and habits, and so
Do you have one, maybe it's hard to say, but do you have one favorite project at the moment where you see like a high potential to demonstrate maybe where agroecology is working very well, or maybe just also where the education or awareness has been?
Yeah, there are many. First of all, at the moment, I have many projects, probably too much. On the other hand, I think that, for example, the new master is something that have absorbed me a lot, and we have work inside it is inside an Horizon 2020 project that is called Next Food, that have a large partnership. We are around 30 partners from 4 continents. So it's and we are all questioning what is the good way to develop education. So in order, exactly what we said before, to become active, how to develop in awareness in people, and so to develop this action instead of knowledge, only knowledge. Of course, knowledge is fundamental, it's the first step, but then how to change action in our daily life, because this is what we really need, or it really is the really difficulties that we have. So I would like to do that, but I don't have time, I don't have economic resource, I don't have enough support, I don't know, I have. So this is our, and then of course this is individually, but I don't want, is not the only one. Then of course there is the politics dimension. It means European politics, international politics, because of course it's not, I don't want to say that it's the thing, only the individuality, not at all. Is the relationship, is the, again, economic power, and so there are many
things linked.
Yeah. On the other hand, the master is fascinating, and I really hope that I don't know, we will enjoy.
And maybe this is interesting for the audience. Charlotte will also facilitate this master.
Yes. No, it's going to be nice, I think. It's going to be a big journey, and yeah, exciting as well.
Yeah, just to give to audience some, let's say, what is the real innovation in this master, is that we have put the experiential learning approach in the center. So the student will spend 3 months in Terra Madre community, and we build the previous period before, so the preparatory period, in serving this experiential learning. So what are the competence and the knowledge that the student needs in order to analyze and understand and develop the community? So it's the other way around. Okay, so it's not from theoretical to practice, but it's from practice to theoretical. So it's very reverse the approach.
There's another question from the audience by Hindu Real and Ariel, sorry. What about other stakeholders in the food system? Can startups and gastronomy support agroecology? So what do you see? Yeah. Do you see other stakeholders in the food system, like startups or gastronomy, in order to make agroecology like a wider spread, or like a more fundamental movement or like action?
Of course, I said before, one of the principles is anyhow diets. So gastronomic, if this was the role, gastronomy plays a fundamental role, because again, we need to know what to do with different kinds of herbs. We don't need to destroy, for example, spontaneous flora, but we need to know how can they enrich our, I don't know, frittata or risotto. No, it's just an example, but so how can we, the diet, the healthy diet means also local biodiversity, agrobiodiversity. So the best use of it is very important. Any kind of stakeholder is important, any kind. Again, as we said, farmer, but all we buy food or anyhow, and we every day eat and cook. So all of us are very important in reconnection with nature, basically, now to see, to develop empathic behavior with different kind of nature.
And what about, like, you mentioned before that there is the Agroecology Forum for next, I think, summer 2021 planned. And if someone like who is not yet part of the Agroecology Europe group or assembly, is it possible like to join the forum, or how do you, like, how could someone participate?
The forum is open, will be open like all the other forums. So as soon as we will publish the announcement, anybody are more than welcome to participate. The forum is not at all a scientific conference. is a place where farmer, consumer, social movements, anyhow NGO, researcher, also students, youth, whatever can contribute either in a contribution, again, is not necessarily a written contribution, and we generally do a lot of discussion there. It's a very participatory, we do a lot of work cafe or small group discussion and workshops. So it's mainly a place where knowing other people and sharing.
Nice. So I told you before we had this interview that normally my father is writing me some text messages and having some questions. He cannot be here, but I have another question from a friend who's not been able to write in the chat. Her name is Chiara Palandri. She studied with me also in Polenzo, and her question is that she says the problem with the organic products is often that they are too expensive, and this leads to an elitarian system. And she's asking if it's maybe more important to focus on the price and to communicate it to the consumer so that they can manage their finances, making informed choices. I think she means like that you inform what you buy and then you pay more money, I guess, because when you are more aware what you
Yeah, of course, you know, there is this approach that is true cost accounting, also in organic, also IFOAM are working a lot on it. That means when we say it's too costly, what is behind, or when it is too cheap, what is behind? Because too cheap or cheap means probably very often again that we deplete the soil fertility, we pollute air and water, we find residues in the food, jungle food, not healthy for us and neither for the environment. So it means a lot of negative externalities that very often we are not aware, till of course exploitation of worker in the field without any protection or anyhow. So you know, the old slogan of sustainability was not think globally, act locally. Let's say, again, I don't want to, of course, it can't be the single person that have in the shoulder all the responsibility. I don't want to say that because it's not true, it's not correct politically. So there are, let's say, I think that all of us can do our best to improve the system. Of course, let's say a low-income family, it can do maybe much less than a high-income family in that choice. But organic farming is good not for hedonistic reasons. So it's not good because the people that can afford, let's say, for example, have a benefit impact on the health of the people only. No, organic farming is proved scientifically that benefit also for the people that are not consuming, because again it develops soil fertility, biodiversity, good clean air, and so on and so forth. So this is how we see it. It's even written in the first article of the law of European law for organic. On the other hand, sometimes organic has been criticized because the benefits stop at the, let's say, at the sometimes at the food chain. On the other hand, let's say again, it's not true that it's higher cost. It depends where do you buy. Generally, it's higher because the cost of production is higher, and also the economy of scale of the industrial agriculture managed to reduce the final price, but it's not a benefit in general. So what we need to do is that from political point of view, everybody should access good food, healthy food, but also good environment. There is no health or anyhow social, let's say ecological, economic and social sustainability are not distinguished. We have to keep it together. So it doesn't make any sense if I produce something that is good for the health, but not, let's say, economically viable. Of course, there should be a balance. There should be a balance, but in Ecosophia of Arne Næss in the 70s, he developed the concept that, again, is not, we are part of nature. So when we produce a glass of wine, we should also, let's say, the price should, it can't be, let's say, the price can't be without the production in an organic way, because if I use pesticides, I reduce, for example, in Langhe, the productivity of tartufo. Okay, so truffle are very influenced by pesticides, in particular glyphosate. So if I produce wine and nuts using glyphosate, I create an economic problem to the people that base their economy on truffles. So it doesn't make sense.
But this also leads to more education and more awareness, because I have the feeling some people cannot connect all these things together. They just see the end product and, okay, I want it, this is cheaper, this is higher price, I'm gonna take the cheaper one, that's it.
It's perfectly understandable. I don't want to blame anybody, because all of us, we do what we can. Okay, I think, let's say, if we are in a good dimension, I don't think that people do it just because they are evil. Let's say it's just because they don't know how to do it different. So we need to all together work and do our best to improve, to transit to a better, more sustainable system.
It would be nice in the supermarket if we have like more informed shields, where the impact or something is.
Yeah, on the other hand, the productivity of too much labor is not so good. Let's say there is so many labels that consumers are very confused at the moment. There are, I don't know, free-range eggs, organic eggs. Now, let's say, what do I have to choose? When there is too much information around, sometimes create a lot of confusion, and products are not anymore so much distinguishable. So again, only with a closer relationship between producer and consumer, we manage to keep all the information. That means, again, local community, if they exist. Again, let's say. No, yeah, it's a joke. But so when there is too much distances between production and consumption, it really becomes difficult to keep all the information. It doesn't make so much sense sometimes, because you.
I'm very happy, but because it seems like my father has joined the talk, so he wants to know, what's your biggest success in influencing the EU politics?
Wow. We are too young to say that. No, anyhow, I think we will see this next year. I can't say at the moment. And again, of course, it's not only us, not at all, let's say, but it's good when there is a direction, when there is a path, and together with other association, with all people that have the same wish and the same similar vision, at least, if we are able to connect each other and push in that direction, then it becomes very, very complex, because you know that European politics maybe design a nice strategies as is going to be at the moment, and then national level, regional level, provincial level, because this is how it works, destroy the real intention. This can happen. So that's why we need a lot of presidia, I mean, in everywhere, in order, let's say, now it seems that some space is created, so it seems possible that some very practical changes can be done. On the other hand, is the local level that still can deal with this intention. So it's up to us also. Eh?
We also have another question from the audience, and it's from Cristobal Velasquez, and he asks, don't you see a conflict when you say that the farmer should better paid, in brackets, which I agree, so he agrees, but maybe it's not a big issue in the first world countries, but in other ones where economic differences are bigger?
It's an issue everywhere, I think, let's say, because in Europe, some farmers became rich with the villa because they receive a lot of subsidies, because subsidies are based on hectares. So the larger farmer became even richer. And this is, for me, personal point of view, is a contrasense. So in all countries, generally, farmers are the lowest level in the society, not the highest. But farmers are very important, are fundamental, are the ones that keep the hydrogeological safety, no? So that work every day against flooding or against pest and disease emergency. For example, also COVID. So we don't see these linkages, but they are very clear in nature. So farmers should be better paid everywhere, and again, could be an economic recognition direct, but also a social recognition. Let's say farmers are important. Farmers have an important role, and this is very often not at all visible. It's still considered a very low work. So I don't see the contrasense. I see that we need to work in each country, in each region, for specific target, for specific improvements. And from the law point of view, from the cultural point of view, from the economic point of view, from the education point of view. So there are many ways, no? Many
levels, yeah. So I think we are coming to an end now. Maybe Charlotte, you want to ask the last question?
Well, I think I asked first the last question from the chat, because there was another one which I think might be interesting. It's from Hindu Real. What is the current state of true cost accounting? Any signals of a broader adoption to the mainstream? Politics, large producers, or companies? Do you have an idea about that?
Yes and no. Let's say I have an idea, but as far as I know, it doesn't exist a unique way to account. When we make an accountancy, why it's complex, because it's difficult to put into the value chain all the cost. But again, for sure, we can say the positiveness. So I produce this without exploiting worker, without polluting the air, without depleting the soil, but increasing carbon stock in the soil, so soil fertility, and so on and so forth. So this can be done. Then there are many different methodologies also for sustainability assessment. I work on it. I do my research also in this area. It depends a lot. So it doesn't exist. For example, there is SAFA from FAO or other worldwide international methodology. On the other hand, this is my personal experience. As Bell and Morse said already in 1999, it's very difficult to measure the immeasurable. So it's very difficult not to, and probably not even the right goal. What we can develop is saying that if you let's say these cheap products have a big impact, negative impact, also indirectly in your health, in your community, in your surroundings. So it's not good to sustain that food chain, but we have to develop others that of course could be with higher cost, but cost in terms of also benefit. So we have to see it in that way. Anyhow, there are some movements, some specific methodology to make true cost account, but it depends on the specific goal and also on the specific region. I think it should be kept in a what we say technically in time frame and space frame boundary specific.
Okay. So our last question for Charlotte and me would be, Paola, as you are the crop specialist, which crop is your superstar to fight hunger and support food sovereignty?
Oh, I'm for diversity, so it doesn't exist one crop, not at all. This was a tricky question. Anyhow, I must say that I have my personal love that is at the moment is monococco. That is inside the family of Triticum. Triticum monococco was an ancient cereal. So at the moment, let's say, I think it's a very nice one inside cereal. But no, in generally, we have to look for diversity at all levels. So this is the keywords: diversification at all levels.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paola, for this wonderful talk.
Yeah, also for me. Thanks a lot. And yeah, I will watch your others interview.
Yeah, thank you. And also for the audience, please, if you like to, be, I don't know, you can hit the, I'm so bad at this marketing things. You can hit the subscribe button, and then you can subscribe to our newsletter or to our YouTube channel so that you do not miss any of our talks in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
And see you soon.